Hey radiant Leo soul. Let me ask you something right away. What if the man entering your life isn't here to love you but to slowly, silently, dim your fire? Would you sense it in time? You didn't land on this video by accident. You were guided here, right now, because something in your spirit is starting to whisper what your mind hasn't yet admitted. The universe is speaking, and this message was meant to find you. This is not just another horoscope reading. This is a cosmic checkpoint, a moment of clarity, and yes, a warning. There is summoning a man who is either already in your world, or quietly moving closer. And while he may seem warm, attentive, even charming, he carries with him a kind of energy that can undo everything you've worked so hard to build inside yourself. Not with shouting. Not with violence. But with little comments that plant doubt. With smiles that hide competition. With suggestions that lead you to shrink just a little, soften your glow just a bit until one day, you barely recognize yourself in the mirror. But here's what he doesn't understand. You were never born to shrink. You were born to blaze. Leo, you are ruled by the sun. You are here to lead, to inspire, to love boldly and live fully. And yet lately, something may have felt off. Maybe you've been second-guessing yourself. Maybe you've been dimming your fire to keep someone else comfortable. Maybe a quiet part of you is already screaming, I miss the version of me that used to light up every room. That's why this moment matters. Because today's message is not just about spotting someone who's dangerous to your light. It's about reclaiming the parts of you that you've given away in the name of love, loyalty, or fear. So before we go further, let me take a sacred moment to say thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for listening to your inner wisdom. Every view, every comment, every like helps grow this eternal mindfulness community, a space where your soul gets to come home. And truly, it's because of souls like yours that we're able to keep doing this work. Now let me ask you. Has someone recently made you feel like you're too much? Too loud, too confident, too creative, too intense? Has someone praised you one moment and undercut you the next? If that sounds familiar, I want you to comment right now. I'm taking my light back. Let that be your declaration. Your boundary. Your return to self. Because trust me, Leo, you'll want to stay with me all the way through this video. The cosmic truths coming your way are not only eye-opening, but deeply empowering. And by the end, you'll understand why this isn't just a warning. It's a homecoming to your own fire. So take a deep breath, center your heart. Let's begin. When your soul was woven into this world under the constellation of Leo, you were imprinted with something rare, an inner radiance that doesn't just light your path, but has the potential to illuminate others. Being ruled by the sun, your energy is not subtle. It's magnetic, warm, and impossible to ignore. You are the bonfire people gather around, not just to witness, but to feel. And with that brilliance, there is a silent contract with life, to stand in your truth, to live from the heart, and to keep your flame burning even when the winds around you try to blow it out. This part of the journey we're walking together now is about understanding why such a powerful light like yours often draws both admiration and threat. It's easy to assume that being bright will only bring joy and connection, but that's not always how the energy of the world works. Just as a candle draws moths, your light, your confidence, creativity, and presence attracts more than just kindred spirits. It also awakens discomfort in those who have not yet learned how to light their own flame. And when someone lives in the shadows of self-doubt, they often cannot help but try to dim what they can't understand or control. There's a quiet truth you may have noticed throughout your life. Some people don't reject you because of what you lack, they pull away or push against you because of how complete you already are. And that feeling can be confusing. You may wonder, why does my joy make someone else feel small? Why does my success feel like a burden to someone I love? But the answer is not that you're too much. It's that your light is casting shadows they have long avoided within themselves. In the same way that the sun exposes what has been hidden, your energy reveals what others may not be ready to see. Your boldness confronts their timidity. Your clarity unsettles their confusion. Your love challenges their fear. And for those who aren't prepared to meet themselves, it's easier to critique the mirror than to look into it. They may do it subtly under the guise of advice, of teasing, of care, but if you listen closely, you'll feel it in your chest before you can name it in words. The beauty of your sign is also your test. Because Leo is heart-centered, you love deeply, protect fiercely, and often give the benefit of the doubt. You may find yourself dimming slowly, just to keep someone else from feeling overwhelmed. You may start withholding your ideas, your laughter, even your goals, telling yourself that it's out of compassion, when really, it's the result of emotional erosion that's been happening drop by drop. But just like the sun does not ask permission to rise each morning, you were not born to ask for space to shine. Your existence is a permission slip in itself. And while it is noble to hold space for others, it is sacred to hold space for yourself first. In the philosophy of stillness and awakened presence, there's an understanding: the more light you carry, the more clarity you must cultivate. Not everything that is drawn to your energy is meant to stay. You are not here to prove your worth to those who feel threatened by it. You are here to embody your truth so fully that others feel safe to do the same or move out of the way. So if you felt tension, if you've noticed subtle resistance in your relationships or moments where your joy was met with silence instead of celebration, trust that as a signal. It is not a reason to shrink. It is a reason to deepen your roots. Like the sun, you are not responsible for how others receive your light. You are only responsible for shining anyway. Let that be your compass as we move forward. He often enters quietly. Not with chaos, but with calmness so carefully performed it almost feels sacred. He sees your light before you do, recognizes the pull of your confidence, the natural gravity of your presence, and the way you don't try to shine, you just do. In the beginning, he'll say all the right things. You'll hear admiration laced in his tone. You'll feel seen in a way that's both flattering and affirming. And perhaps, for a while, you'll believe he's here to celebrate you. But the story always shifts in small, almost imperceptible ways. First comes the comparison. He'll mention how others find you too much, how you take up a lot of space. Then, the compliments begin to fracture. He'll still praise you, but only through a cracked lens. You're amazing, if only you could be a bit more humble. He might say, I love how bold you are, followed quickly by, but maybe tone it down around my friends. Each word carefully calculated to wrap concern around control. This is not love. This is possession dressed up in politeness. And once you recognize the pattern, it becomes eerily consistent. You might remember the moments, the way he laughed when you shared something important, only to follow it with, "Relax, I'm just kidding." Or how he introduced you as, "a little dramatic, but that's what makes her fun." And perhaps the worst of all, when he looked at you with that soft smile and said, "You don't have to always be the star, you know." These are not accidents. These are strategies. Subtle emotional tactics designed not to destroy your identity outright, but to erode it quietly, from within. In tarot, when the sun appears beside the devil, it symbolizes a dance of distortion, the radiant truth of self being entangled by something seductive, but deceptive. The devil doesn't always show up as danger. Sometimes, he arrives in the form of someone who says, "I just want to protect you," while leading you further away from your own voice. What's dangerous isn't just what he says. It's what you begin to believe because of it. You might find yourself pulling back in rooms where you once led freely. You might stop wearing the clothes that made you feel bold. You might start second-guessing your laughter, your dreams, your very essence. And the hardest part is that it doesn't feel like manipulation at first. It feels like compromise. But here's the truth: love should never require you to dim your fire. Real connection doesn't ask you to be smaller to make someone else feel more secure. The moment someone starts measuring how much light you're allowed to shine is the moment you must return to yourself. There's a teaching that says when the wind blows through the forest, it doesn't ask the trees to stop dancing. It simply moves, and the trees move with it, fully themselves. In the same way, your light was not made to adjust to someone else's shadows. You were meant to move in your full expression, without shame. So if you've heard these kinds of words, if you've ever felt a chill in your heart after someone said they loved your energy, but not your truth, pause and ask yourself, did they love you, or did they love how you made them feel before they had to face your power? And if any of this feels familiar, if you've ever caught yourself holding back out of fear of shining too brightly, say it with me now in the comments. I have been dimmed, but not broken. Let that be your turning point. Because recognizing this pattern isn't the end of your story, it's the beginning of you writing a new one. One where you don't need permission to be powerful. One where you remember that no one can steal your light unless you hand it to them. And today, Leo, taking it back. What makes this trap especially dangerous for a Leo isn't just the manipulation, it's the way it intertwines with your deepest virtues. You are loyal by nature. When your heart chooses someone, it chooses fully. You don't flirt with affection, you commit to it. And when something begins to crack within the relationship, you don't abandon it easily. You hold on. You adapt. You convince yourself that maybe if you change your tone, lessen your shine, shrink just a little, things will settle again. Because harmony, to you, is worth effort. And effort, to a Leo, is love. But here is the quiet paradox: the very traits that make your heart noble can also make it vulnerable. Your loyalty becomes a leash. Your empathy, a silence. And soon, the relationship you thought you were nurturing becomes the cage you unknowingly stepped into. This is not because you are weak, but because your strength lies in your devotion. And when that devotion is pointed towards someone who fears your power rather than honors it, the damage happens in layers. This is not the kind of storm that hits all at once. It's more like a slow turning of the soil. Your values are used against you, your instincts blurred by the hope that maybe love just needs more patience, more compromise. But there comes a point when compromise turns into erasure. And Leo, that's where the real danger lives. You are ruled by the sun, symbolized in numerology by the number 1, the primal force of identity, individuality, and radiant leadership. The number 1 is not about ego. It's about origin. It is the reminder that before anything else, you must stand as yourself. When the number 11 appears in your awareness, it signals an inner awakening, an intuitive nudge to see beyond what is said and feel what is true. Combined with the number 8, which reflects inner strength, resilience, and power earned through perseverance, this numeric trio serves as a cosmic reminder: you were never meant to dim your essence in order to be loved. You are meant to love from the center of your light, not from the edge of your survival. The real lesson here is one of remembrance. Remembering that you don't need permission to shine. That you don't need external validation to know your worth. Like the sun, your light is not conditional. It rises because it must. It burns because that is its nature. And even when clouds cover its rays, it never questions its purpose. If you found yourself second-guessing your desires, questioning your voice, or rewriting your dreams to fit someone else's comfort, pause for a moment and come back to breath. Let yourself practice what some call sun breathing, not as a ritual, but as a return. Inhale with the awareness of your inner radiance, and exhale the narratives that told you it was too much. The more often you do this, the more you reconnect with the part of you that knows. You were born to lead from the heart, not follow from fear. Another practice to return to your truth is to keep a journal of gratitude, not just for people and circumstances, but for your own traits. For your boldness. Your fierce love. Your generosity. Your strength. Write them down not to become someone new, but to remember the version of yourself you may have left behind to make someone else feel safe. No one who truly loves you will ever ask you to leave your fire at the door. So if you've been waiting for a sign, for permission, for a reason to come home to yourself, this is it. Not because you need fixing, but because you're ready to rise from where you've been settling. And the moment you choose to stop apologizing for your brilliance is the moment your life begins again. There's a quiet kind of power that doesn't need to roar to be heard. It's the kind of power that lives inside you, Leo, one that has been tested, silenced, praised, misunderstood, and still burns just as steady. But now that you've seen the truth of who might be dimming your light, the question becomes, how do you protect it, without becoming hard or cold? How do you honor your fire without letting it consume or collapse you? This is where the wisdom of true strength reveals itself, not the kind that dominates or defends through force, but the kind that is anchored in clarity and self-respect. In the tarot, the Strength card doesn't depict a lion chained or controlled. Instead, it shows a woman gently taming the lion, her touch calm and open. It is not about suppressing power, it is about understanding it, trusting it, channeling it with compassion, not fear. That woman? That's you. Not because you're meant to tame others, but because you're learning how to tame the part of yourself that once believed love required shrinking. To protect your light, you first have to acknowledge it as sacred. That means treating it the way you would a fire that's been entrusted to you, one that keeps your spirit warm, your creativity alive, and your presence magnetic. And like any sacred flame, it needs care, not just from others, but especially from you. Start with your boundaries. Not walls, not armor, just clear, rooted lines that separate what supports you from what slowly drains you. When someone makes a comment that makes you question your worth, pause and return to the truth you already know. Not every opinion deserves your energy. You don't have to fight back. You simply step back. Sometimes the most powerful act of self-love is choosing silence over self-doubt. Then, reconnect with evidence of your light. Look back on the words that came from people who truly saw you. The friend who called you courageous. The mentor who admired your vision. The quiet moments where even your reflection reminded you who you are. Write them down. Keep them close. Not as ego-boosting affirmations, but as gentle reminders. This is me, and I am not too much. Next, turn inward. Your mind and body are not separate from your energy, they are the temple through which your light shines. When you're depleted, overstimulated, or disconnected from your physical rhythms, your radiance dims. Nourish yourself with grounding foods. Restore with deep hydration. Replenish your system with vitamin B, omega-3s, and movement that doesn't feel like punishment, but like presence. 10 minutes of walking while listening to your breath. 5 minutes of sitting in stillness before the day begins. These rituals are not small. They are sacred. They are how you show your body, you are a safe place for my fire to live. And this week, allow gold to surround you, not just in clothes or decor, but in mindset. Gold represents your soul or nature, your pride, your birthright to shine. Wear it. Visualize it. Speak it. Each morning, write 5 times, I am light. I do not need permission to shine. Not because the words are magic, but because repetition is a form of returning. Each time you write it, you are saying, I remember. I remember. I remember. True power does not seek validation. It holds space quietly, confidently, patiently until the world catches up. You don't have to convince anyone to love your light. You only have to love it enough not to hand it away. Let your strength be soft. Let your light be bold. Let your boundaries be gentle but firm. And know this, the fire within you was never meant to be hidden. It was meant to be seen from the inside out. Not everyone is meant to walk with you into your highest becoming. And that realization, while freeing, can also feel quietly heartbreaking. Especially for a Leo whose nature is loyal, generous, and deeply devoted, there's a temptation to hold on longer than necessary, hoping that love can fix what resistance refuses to heal. But one of the greatest acts of self-love is learning to recognize who truly belongs inside your sacred circle of light and who does not. When someone consistently makes you feel small, uncertain, or as though your dreams are inconvenient, pay attention. When you leave conversations feeling less sure of your voice, or more distant from your natural joy, these are not minor moments. They are signals. Subtle, yes, but real. You may try to rationalize their behavior, they're just going through a hard time, or maybe I am too intense. But here's what's deeper: those who truly love you will never try to tame your fire to feel more comfortable in your warmth. They will simply bask in it. And they will give you room to expand. There are people who are drawn to your light because it reminds them of something they've lost. And rather than being inspired, they become afraid. Afraid of being seen beside you. Afraid of being left behind. So they try to contain you, question your choices, minimize your milestones, laugh at your goals, or dismiss your needs. This isn't love. It's fear disguised as intimacy. And if you are not vigilant, you'll begin to confuse closeness with connection. But connection does not cost you your clarity. It deepens it. Look closely at who lifts you. The ones who lean in when your ideas get wild. The ones who say, "That sounds impossibilito it anyway." The ones who don't just tolerate your passion but celebrate it, because your shine does not cast them into shadow, it lights them up, too. Those people are not threatened by your success. They don't try to fit you into their story, they want you to live yours, fully. Keep those souls close. There is a quiet wisdom in knowing when to release. Not out of resentment, but from reverence for your own energy, your own journey. In stillness teachings, there's a saying, the river doesn't cling to the stones it has already passed. In the same way, you do not need to cling to people who no longer walk in harmony with your growth. Letting go is not rejection. It is realignment. Tarot reminds us of this truth through two powerful archetypes, the Star and the King of Wands. The Star represents renewal, clarity, and divine timing. It teaches you to trust that when you strip away what is false, what remains is what's meant. The King of Wands represents vision, leadership, and unapologetic presence. When these two show up together, they whisper the same message. When you stand fully in your light, the right people will find you, not because you chased them, but because you became visible to those who see. So now, you get to choose. Will you continue dimming yourself for people who were only meant to teach you what misalignment feels like? Or will you step boldly back into your own glow and call in those who meet you with clarity, encouragement, and peace? If you're ready to answer that call, if something in your chest is stirring, saying, "Enough," then I invite you to make a quiet promise to yourself. And maybe even say it aloud, "I choose to return to my light." Let it be your boundary. Let it be your rebirth. And if you're ready, you can type it in the comments right now, "I choose to return to my light." Because sometimes, writing it down is the first spark. The first shift. The first moment of truth, after too long in the dark. If you're still here, still listening, still breathing with me through these final moments, then maybe, just maybe, the universe is whispering to you now, louder than ever before. That subtle nudge in your chest. That quiet pull toward remembering something you used to know before the world tried to talk you out of it. That's not just coincidence. That is your light, returning. You were never meant to twist yourself into something smaller just so someone else could feel taller. You were never created to dim your fire in order to be more digestible. And no matter what anyone has told you, there is absolutely nothing wrong with how brightly you were born to shine. So let me ask you now, with sincerity and love, when was the last time you looked at yourself and said, "I'm enough"? Not because someone else said so, but because deep down, beneath all the doubts and noise, you know it to be true. Can you recall a moment when you felt fully alive, fully you? What would it take for you to return to that version of yourself, not just for a day, but for good? You don't need anyone's permission to rise again. To claim your place. To hold your power without apology. The most important relationship you will ever repair is the one between you and the light inside you. And I know it's not always easy. It takes bravery to reclaim yourself in a world that benefits from your silence. But Leo, you were never built for silence. You were born under the sun. You carry leadership in your bones and brilliance in your blood. The world doesn't need a quieter version of you, it needs the real one. The version of you that remembers. The version that feels safe in their own skin. The one who knows how to walk away from what drains and run toward what ignites. You don't need to prove your worth. You only need to protect it. You don't need to beg to be seen. You only need to stand where your light is undeniable. You don't need to stay small to keep the peace, because your peace lives in your expansion. So if something within you has stirred today, if even one phrase from this video reminded you of the truth you've been suppressing, then let it be the start of something new. Don't let this just be a moment of inspiration. Let it be a turning point. A decision. A quiet, strong yes to yourself. I invite you now gently, boldly to affirm it in the comments. Let the universe and your own heart hear you say it out loud. I don't need permission to shine. And if this message found you at the perfect time, give this video a like to honor the fire that still lives within you. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel, Eternal Mindfulness, where we are not just decoding horoscopes, are building a space for souls like yours to awaken, to return, to belong. Thank you, truly, for being here. Your presence means more than you know. You are not alone in this journey. You are supported. You are seen. And more than anything, you are ready. You've always been ready. The only question left now is, will you answer the call? Because the door is open. And your light has always been waiting for you to walk through.